This morning, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a controversial voting bill into law in West Palm Beach.
He's touting it as progress to stop voter fraud, though he boasted after Election Day 2020 about Florida's smooth, problem-free election.
I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect.
But the governor made no time to talk with local or state-based political reporters. He signed SB 90 only for Fox News cameras and a crowd of supporters at the airport Hilton. This was the governor's interaction with WPTV reporter Matt Cesney outside as he was leaving.
Governor, it was on national TV. It wasn't secret.
Why is this a good? Well, tell us. We couldn't get inside.
Democrats say the bill is voter suppression with tighter voter ID rules, new restrictions on mail-in ballots, and drop-off boxes. Republicans say they passed the bill because of perceived problems in other states.
We saw across the country various things that happened, and although we had a successful election in Florida, there were things that we want to make sure don't happen.
We also spoke with some of the hundreds of everyday people who reserved a spot inside the hotel to support the governor this morning.
I like the fact that he's signing the legislation to have election integrity. Very important. I think if we can start trusting the process.
Tonight, we break down Florida's new election law, explaining what it means for voters like you, of course. The law includes new restrictions on when ballot drop boxes can be used, who can collect ballots, and how many. An electoral Good Samaritan can only collect and return the ballots of immediate family, and no more than 2 for those not related. Also, drop boxes must be supervised. They'll only be available when elections offices and early voting sites are open. The new law also requires a voter making changes to your registration data provide an identifying number, possibly a driver's license number or a partial social security number. The new election law includes several changes to the rules around mail-in ballots. More than half of Florida voters mailed in their ballots for November's election. Perhaps you were among them. Contact 5 investigator Dave Bowman continues our in-depth coverage on how the new rules might affect future elections.
Alex Barrios voted by mail in the 2020 election.
When you're working a job, sometimes it's difficult to get to the polling place.
He's also the vice president of the Palm Beach County Democratic Party and spent much of the 2020 race helping other Democrats register to vote by mail.
The lines can be long, and you may not have the time to wait in that line.
Among the vote by mail restrictions Governor DeSantis signed into law, voters now will have to register every 2 instead of 4 years for mail-in ballots. And county supervisors of elections will have to record if a voter's ballot signature does not match the signature on file. These rules weren't so strict in November when statewide Joe Biden got more votes from mail-in ballots, but Donald Trump trounced the Democrat among voters going to the polls. That trend was mirrored in Palm Beach and St. Lucie counties. Biden winning the mail-ins, Trump won polling places. That bucked recent voting trends.
Historically in Florida, it's worth pointing out the Republicans have done the best in mail-in balloting. It's traditionally been a way that Republicans have overcome same-day losses to Democrats.
FAU political science chair Kevin Wagner notes Republican candidates got more mail-in votes in the 3 statewide races before the 2020 election, when voters wore masks to the polls.
The pandemic year may not be a good way to project how the trends in voting will continue to go.
People that had expectations based on their previous experience in 2020.
Alex Barrios says if courts don't strike down the law, his party is ready to do what it can to help voters over new hurdles needed to clear to vote by mail. In West Palm Beach, Dave Bowman, WPTV News Channel 5.
Today's bill signing is a vivid reminder, observers note, that the center of the Republican universe is Mar-a-Lago. Former President Donald Trump, along with many in his huge base, still contest an election that top Republicans, like the former U.S. Attorney General, acknowledged was largely devoid of any fraud. The fight over voting only intensifies.
He did not do the signing on the steps of nearby Mar-a-Lago.
but close.
What Governor DeSantis did today was play Little League ball.
Brian Crowley covered Florida politics for decades.
Instead of addressing the 15 million voters in the state, he chose to focus in on 1/3 of the voters, his Republican followers, who watch Fox News.
He noted the critics who see the new election law as a thank you, gift-wrapped today in Fox News exclusive live coverage.
Where his mentor, former President Donald Trump, is hating the election and insisting that he still won. DeSantis is not leading, he's following.
Now, the worry about fallout. Bottom line, does this make it easier or harder for a lot of people to vote?
Harder.
Patrick Franklin, president of the Urban League of Palm Beach County, spearheads voter turnout drives.
This type of bill that's almost a follow along with other states like Georgia is really going to suppress the vote, especially in low-income minority areas.
But not just minority voters. Many Floridians, especially older ones, welcome mail and drop box voting.
I think he's made it harder for those voters, and many of those voters are Republican voters.
Palm Beach County Democratic State Senator Bobby Powell is fuming about a, quote, solution looking for a problem.
The governor said it himself a few months ago, that this was the best election that we had in the state of Florida.
But in a state President Trump won in 2020, where Republicans had long pushed for more mail-in voting, critics say the GOP just didn't like the trend last year.
More Democrats voted in the primary by vote by mail than Republicans, and that became problematic, as we can see.
Governor DeSantis won a big fight here, for now. Senator Powell, what will you be pushing for, especially as we're already hearing there are going to be lawsuits out of this new law?
Well, I'm supportive of lawsuits, right? Because I want to expand the opportunity for people to vote.
A political and legal slugfest that has only just begun. And you can read about the new election law in its entirety by heading to WPTV.com.